Right. Okay, Cup, welcome to Basai and welcome to your summer pre-course. This is going to be pre-course on interactive mathematics with Mathematica. We'll go over why I choose to do this as opposed to just basic, prelim pre-course in mathematics. In a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I guess the tradition is we have for this class, right? I have to introduce talk a little bit about myself, which is not necessarily best use of the time. So what I'm gonna do, this is an excerpt from my bio. When I give a talk, people ask for bio. So this is kind of like my background. The key takeaway from this is I'm very much in the same spirit of what you guys are supposedly sign up, okay? Which is a multidisciplinary approach to education. My motivation was different from yours. The motivation of this school is when you have a multidisciplinary education, that sets you up to be a very successful, innovative thinker. Yeah. My perspective was different. I just learned many things because I learned as many things as I was interested. Yeah, it was that kind of spirit that I had. I just wanted to learn things. To give you an example, my father is extremely successful as a career engineer, so he's very practical minded. But when I told him, I think it was my junior year, I think it was, I came back home from abroad, and I kind of told my dad that I really liked studying philosophy. And my dad actually said, go ahead, study philosophy for your undergraduate. Don't worry about getting a job. He literally said that, even though he himself, has got a PhD in engineering, so very practical minded. But to me, to him, the practical thing wasn't to tell me which area to go to. He said like, well, if you really love philosophy, go ahead, study for your undergraduate. It doesn't matter if you don't have a job. We'll figure out something. But it turns out that I started reading, I think, Buddhist philosophy at that time. So I found that Western philosophy was a little bit like shooting fish in a barrel. You start with a set of axioms and you make some kind of deduction and you sort of cross-validate within that. So I kind of lost interest in Western philosophy. But anyway, I kept my interest in physics and economics. And the reason I studied economics is probably not because I wanted to make a living in banking or finance. It was because I was walking down an old bookstore. Actually, it was sort of like a flea market. I don't know if you guys have it here, but in the United States, sometimes you have flea market. People bring old books and carpets and chairs and whatnot. But this was a book kind of flea market. I just picked up some introductory book in economics, and I read the introduction, and I kind of got intrigued by it. And that's it. That's how I got interested in economics. So what I'm trying to say is I've been very successful in building career, doing a few things, but none of this came because when I was your age, I asked, what subject should I get so I can get a high-paying job? I never did ask that when I was your age. Okay? And fortunately, even my parents never put that burden. So I just want you to have that kind of spirit of open-minded idea of education. If you're good enough at what you are passionate about, but it has to be something meaningful, right? Not like basket weaving, something like that. But it has to be something that you're passionate about, but also difficult enough so that you need to be passionate and devote years of study and so forth to be good at, right? If you're passionate about basket weaving and it takes somebody 5 minutes to master basket weaving, you're not going to make a good living, okay? So my advice to you is just follow your passion, just as long as it's not a silly one, yeah? As long as it's a meaningful one and hopefully a difficult one. I happen to enjoy physics, so it was a difficult thing. So once I studied, not too many people managed and so forth. Right. Okay, Okay, so I mean, you can read this on your own, but thing is, I've had a career in three space. You know, normally you have something like academics, maybe go on to get a job in an industry, and maybe in the end go for politics or something. I kind of went the other way around. I started my career with the Bank of Thailand. Spent many good, happy years there, and went on to become first senior vice president of quantitative models and enterprise analytics at SCB. This was when I recruited your TA here. Okay, so he's been kind of with me even from my SCB years. And so I left SCB to start a sort of consultancy, private consultancy. Our first client was UOB Asset Management. And so when I got the opportunity to talk to Professor Warsa, and really, I mean, I just really bought his philosophy. And so I get to do something I always wanted, which is to call myself a Jula. When I was very young, I was a student at Satit Jula. So when I was a student at Satit Warsaw, I think it was, right? And then I prepped myself and I studied my high school in the United States. But anyway, I had Pakio, but I never had the privilege of wearing your Pakio. So you guys wear your uniform proudly, okay? Unfortunately, they don't have faculty uniform. Otherwise, I'd be wearing it, to show off. Okay, right. So wear your uniform proudly. Okay. So that's enough about me. Okay. Topic-wise, I'm really looking after the applied digital intelligence. Okay, we're trying to build up the program. Last year we had Chris, who's like a fresh out of college, fresh out of Ph.D. in chemical engineering, but we started to have him teach like math and hopefully maybe machine learning this term. So that'd be good. Okay, but applied digital intelligence is a lot more than about machine learning. Today, I don't want, a few of you, or maybe one guy said, didn't bring a computer. He said, okay, it's okay, because today it's sort of like freshman orientation / introduction to this class. So you can actually, close your laptop if you like. But I would appreciate if you have, and I hope you have, download the Mathematica, okay? There's going to be a lot of play along kind of thing during this class. Okay? So make sure you are fully charged up so that you can come in and use your Mathematica. Now the class capacity is a little bit exceeded. So if you had about 80, we have all the Mathematica license for everyone. But instead of rejecting the excess student, everybody's allowed in. But I think only maybe 80 or 90 of you have on a first come first serve software. Okay. And once you're done this term, you have to kind of hand over your license, because next term you are second or third years senior are taking data analytics class with me, and I use that. Okay, so some of you would probably have to give back the license. But if you want to use it, really continue using it for your maybe project or something, let us know, because we do have, there aren't that many people taking my data analytics class, maybe about 50. Okay, so maybe about 30 of you can just hang on for a while until next year. Okay, right. So what's on the agenda today? I guess it's hot and hot, right? So talk a little bit about myself already, but the main thing I think I want to spend time on is really to talk to you about the educational philosophy here at Class1. Again, I fully subscribe to that, and then we'll go to why it is that math is such an important part, and why we're teaching you interactive mathematics. Okay, so this is going to be something very different from I think your high school experience. Okay, right. Okay, so these are just a few things. By the way, this is probably your first and the last time you'll ever see me use a PowerPoint. Okay, PowerPoint is a very good tool. I use it when I want to make some kind of pitch sales, because it kind of controls the narrative. You're captive. You can't go anywhere. You're going from one slide to the next. but it's actually, to me, it's not the best teaching tools. The best teaching tool turns out to be what you have never seen in real life, but you might have seen in movies. This is chalkboard. Okay? When I was your age, all the renowned lecturer, professor walks in with a book under his arm or her arm. Presumably, it's a book that he wrote or she wrote, and then a piece of chalk, and just write the whole lecture. Yeah, and it's very good. It's interactive. It's actually it dives into topic that variously centers around the interest of the discussion at the time. So it's very good. But I understand the PowerPoint is very convenient, and students especially like them because you can sort of ask for them and make a little tricky. But other than that, it's not that. Anyway, but this is something I learned. Okay, first part. We have to align ourselves. Okay? For this to be an enterprise, you, the learner, me, the educator or the teacher, the university, the institutional arrangement that is Chulalongkorn University, all this is a system. Okay, it's a system that has to work together. So for different parts of the component to work together, in engineering, it's called interoperability. Okay? And in communication science, it's something like conceptual alignment or something. So we'll call it alignment. You guys have to be aligned to what this institution is trying to achieve. Okay. So let's go with the first thing. I think Professor Warsak hasn't quite put it in this term, but the core belief rests on two things. Okay, rests on two things. One, you can only have an evergreen career, meaning doesn't matter what the technology is doing, all the disruption is going to happen. You will not be learning something that is outdated. You will not become outdated. Okay, so it's not a specific skill, but it is a sort of like a development of your mind, and that's based on what's called liberal arts education. Okay, liberal arts tradition, you guys may not know, it sounds like art, but it actually contains art and science. Okay, so when you go to a liberal arts college in the United States, say, or even in Thailand, Cana Apsarn Sat used to be like this. I don't know if you know this. Apsarn Sat means liberal art, right? When my mom was a student, or even before my mom, Apsarn Sat was a liberal arts education. You study math, you study physics, so basically it's about a complete set of education that's going to mold your mind and your learning capability. So you become a lifelong learner. You never get outdated. Okay, so you're not learning about a particular set of technology. Okay, so that's one belief, an evergreen career. I always say this, by the way, and you can take this to your, I think some of you are under pressure from your parents. What are you going to learn from here? How are you going to get a job? When I was at SCB, I learned this lesson. Well, actually, even before that, I was running a enterprise analytics, so using data scientists. Students who came ready to work for me on day one because they went to data science program, they're very useful, but they max out around 6 months. Okay, they get better, they get more proficient. By year 2, that's it. That's as far as I take them. But students who came didn't even train in programming, but had very good mathematical skills, knew nothing about finance. Knew nothing about finance. Maybe that only has like a debit card. That's as far as he or she knew about finance. But very logical thinking, applied mathematics. These guys were probably useless in the first 6 months or so. Okay, but after 2 years, those are the ones that I picked as my right hand. Okay, those are the ones. So be careful when you are always asking, what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to work on ready to work on day one? It's very cheap to hire people who work on day one. But after 2 years, you're not going to be developed. You're not going to be the valuable resource. Okay? You'll be the grunge. Okay? Now, this doesn't always work, right? I mean, in certain area, you have to be ready to work on day one because that's the only way you get experience. So if you can't work on day one, you don't get good problems to work on, and so you don't develop. Some things like maybe in legal field, I think it's like that. In legal field, if you're ready to work on day one, or medical field, if you're ready to work on day one, that buys you opportunity because the more interesting thing gets sent to you, and then you learn faster than people who are sort of like finding their ways. Okay, but not in my area. So liberal arts education, I think to me that's the meaning. Okay, you're well grounded in art and science. You know where things come from. You study history. You don't study just physics. You study history of physics and how discovery came about. You don't just study about innovation, iPhone, whatnot. You study about history of innovation from steam engine. You know exactly how it transformed society in the Victorian era. Okay. The second part of the core belief, I believe, is part of BASI or SCI as an institution, is that it's in the name, by the way. Okay, the liberal arts, that's the Bachelor of Art and Science part. Innovation comes from multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary mindset. Okay, so you integrate different areas. There is actually a difference between multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary. Okay, transdisciplinary is a little bit more nebulous, a little bit harder to achieve, but at least multidisciplinary is something that you can certainly understand. Like my undergraduate physics, economics, so that's two disciplines, right? So that's kind of easy to understand. The point is to look back at the innovation. Now I'm talking innovation, not discovery. Okay, discovery. Think about discovering gold or something. Okay, you require something that is really precise, very honed in, and a lot of times you really don't get that cross-disciplinary effect. You don't get a chemist coming to physics and discover some great theorem. It doesn't happen that way. Okay, mathematical theorems are not discovered by economists, rarely ever. Okay, so in terms of discovery, you get a lot of deepening in your area, but innovation is different. Innovation, if you look back, and I can, you can talk to me later. This is not about innovation class, but so many of the life-shaping innovation class only happen because somebody who's moderately knowledgeable in this area, moderately knowledgeable, capable in this area, able to put this thing together. Okay, and that happens, and and I make a joke that physicists, if they don't get Nobel Prize, they should jump over and do some problem in economics and they get Nobel Prize. Okay, but sometimes it does happen like that. Okay, it's the cross fertilization. So the institution here is trying to give you that model. Okay, innovation comes from multidisciplinary understanding. Okay, of technology, of science, of theory, of empirical finding, of statistics, and everything. Okay, now be very careful. We're not making a generalist here. Okay, if you know a little bit of everything, jack of all trades, that's not the point. Okay, we'll talk about the broken comb. Oh yeah, might as well go to it. Well, the model that's being applied here, there are actually two models here. One model applies to psi itself. Psi is like a speedboat. I think Professor Warsap has that idea. Chulalongkorn is a big boat, a big ship. So it can't really turn around very quickly. And it also can't afford to run aground, right? Because it's very costly. So you have this big ship, but you can send a little speedboat far ahead, very fast, in the right direction, in the wrong direction, maybe go to the wrong direction and then come back. Nothing wrong with that, right? So psi itself is a speedboat. Psi is not a speedboat. Psi is a broken comb. And that's what we mean by integrated education. You know what a broken comb is, right? You know what a comb is, yeah? Some of you may not, from the look of it. Just kidding. So the comb means if you have the teeth, right? The teeth, the comb, that means you go deep. Okay. Now, a comb is like a big comb is like deep in everything. That's impossible. Okay. A toothless comb it's got no depth. It doesn't go deep anywhere, and that's the general list. I don't want you guys. Broken comb means most of the time you are broken, so you don't go very deep, but you have a foundation to go. Right? You have the root understanding of biochemistry, of genetics, of sustainability challenges, of environmental degradation, of earth science, and so forth, right? But then maybe 5 of those areas is something you dig deep in, and that becomes your lengthy code too. Okay, that's what I mean. That's what Basa is supposed to do. Okay, so you're not a silly, la I know a little bit of everything and just talk my way through, block my way about. No, but you also are not going to be as deep, as penetrative as somebody who's working on biochemical engineering for 4 years, right? But you have to earn their respect. Okay, it's a little bit like that. I don't know if you guys follow motorsports, but one of the things that happened in the past, I guess, 20, 30 years, is that the best drivers are not just the ones who have very good instinct on the track, but it's the one who can actually communicate deeply, meaningfully with the engineers. Okay? They'll never make the engineers themselves. They don't have most of them don't even have an undergraduate degree, right? Never mind PhD, but they can earn the respect of PhDs running aerodynamic labs, PhD running mechanical engineering, knows a lot about fluid dynamics and whatnot. Okay, so that's what you have to be, right? So you have to be deep in the things that you are going to be active in. Okay, not deep enough that you're going to break new ground necessarily, but you have to be able to keep pace. You have to be in the same room, in the same conversation as those guys making the control. Okay, I can't stress that enough. That is the model. Okay, if you're not subscribed to that model, bail yourself out. This is not for you. Okay, so that's the model. There's this idea. Now I put this some of the term, some of the framework in my own term. This thing, lifelong learning. I put that as LLL to make sure. It's about a cycle. It's a process. It's a journey. It's a process, but it takes 3 steps. One step is building the foundation. Right, foundation. Think of I'm trying to make a very delicate experimentation with coronavirus. What's the foundation for that biological research? Well, you have to have a clean room. Okay, if you don't have a clean room, all bets are off. Okay, so that's the foundation. You have to populate the clean room with geneticists, right? So you have understanding of it, and you have the lab equipment and all of that. Now, here's the second part. This part is very important. It's called instrumentation. Because you are trying to achieve something, you have to build the tools that does that. Even though there are generic tools, you always end up customizing it to some purpose. Okay, so yeah, you have a wet lab, what we call a wet lab in biochemistry, but then you have to sort of like make that tool really fine-tuned to do genetic experiments, something like that. Okay, and then you do the experimentation. Okay, now you can actually, I use the same word when sometimes I describe like a Buddhism. Let's say I'm describing a Buddhism to a foreigner. Okay, Sila Sikha, that's a foundation, right? If you are just basically making your life a wreck because you're just sort of like either causing harm or just making life difficult for everyone around you, you can't go anywhere. You're not at peace. You're not at rest. Chitta Sikha, that's the meditation study. The meditation study is not the end in itself in Buddhism. It's the mind, the quality of the mind that is so going to do the experimentation. Experimentation, that's the vipassana. Now, because we're talking about learning, the experimentation part is a special kind of experimentation. When you talk about scientists, most of the time experimentation is about discovering things. I do experimentation with data. I'm a data scientist. With you, it's different. The knowledge is already there. The experimentation is the way for you to internalize the understanding. Okay? This is what they mean by learning by doing. Ultimately, it means that as you experiment, you see it happen and it imprints upon your intellectual psyche. And then you never lose that lesson. That's what it is. Okay? It's not an experimentation to discover something, it's experimentation for you to see something, to discover something you haven't seen yourself. Okay? So, like in Buddhism, Nibbana is not, it's not going to be something you discover, nobody's seen it before, but you haven't seen it before. Same thing. Experimentation in this setting. Okay? Let me give you an example. The foundation you have are the team working skill, presentation skill, okay? Dialogue, ability to work out the difference, ability to diagnose the problem, think critically about the problem. Those are all the foundations, right? The instrumentation, that's the learning about this project seed kind of thing, okay? And then you try your project seeds. And that project seed is going to contain something you have not seen yourself, such as success, mostly failure, right? You have to think, if you're going to be an innovator or entrepreneur, okay, you have to say, in Thai, say, ล้มเจ็บ look back or something, right? That should be your mantra. You fall down 7 times, you get back up 8 times. That's it. That's it. Okay, so it's about 7 to 1 or something like that. Okay, I think there have been Harvard maybe business review studies on this kind of thing, like what is exactly the average number of failures before breakthrough? Maybe it's 20. Okay, but for our purpose, I'll use the word look back. So you fall 7 times and you rise 8 times. Okay, unless if you watch Rocky, that's for a lot of times. Okay. Another thing, and this is related to this, but the idea that it's a cycle, okay? But the first loop of the cycle is a little bit long. It's like a 4-year. Okay? We try to make it sort of like a process through the 4 year. But in life, this loops again over and over. And there are tiny little loops. I don't know if you've seen those artistic depiction of waves, big waves and smaller waves. Same thing here. Same thing here. The whole 4 year here is this process here, from foundation to instrumentation to experimentation. But there are little mini loops inside of that. Okay. And finally, and I think this one I took from Professor Warsa, and I think it's fair, although I put that in my term. We kind of producing, if there are hundreds of you, okay, we're hoping that 10 of you will be in the driving seat. I mean, guys who actually like makes crazy stuff happen, okay? Breakthrough, driver, okay? Maybe 20 of you, okay, would be able to benefit. In other words, you spot a trend in emerging technology. You sort of make a business case out of it, okay? Not so polite word inside, but that's exactly what you want to be, okay? You can only if you can spot emerging trend. You can only spot emerging trend if you understand what's under the hood. So 20 of you will be like that. 30 of you will be something like social transformer. That means that because you are aware of the ethical implication of technology, sustainability, all kinds of things that's happened, bad lesson from my generation is creating a terrible world for you guys. You are going to bring all this, and you yourself will, wherever you are, be a social transformer. And you make things, you make life different socially because of your deeper understanding of what technology is. And at least 40 of you, hopefully, now this is not mutually exclusive, right? You could be all of this. But at least 40 at the minimum would be educated consumers. So when some new piece of technology comes in, you don't get all excited, hoo-ha, and jump right in and then lose all your money. Okay? That happens a lot. It happens a lot. Most people who lost money in financial crisis were not people who were ignorant of finance, but were MBA fresh graduates. So they know about enough finance enough to get excited about it, but they don't know about it enough to understand the pitfall. Okay? So all the crazy financial losses come from fresh grad MBAs. And Thailand had a lot of those because we have a lot of maybe rich family that send their kids to get 2 years MBA somewhere and come back and you know just immediately, oh well, my son and my daughter is got an MBA now, so let's run the book of the factory or something. And it is terrible in some way. Okay? So I don't want you to be that. I want you to know things really deep. And if you don't know it, you have to be able to understand the unknown. Okay? Understanding your limit of your knowledge is one of the skills that I cannot emphasize. So that's I'll give you a little bit more, and then we'll jump to the math. Yeah, well, this is a little bit of a detail actually. There's a different way of thinking about what it is I'm trying to do. What is my job? What's my responsibility? Okay, English is really an interesting language. The reason it's interesting is because it is populated by people of different cultures. So the Greeks contribute some vocabularies, the French some, right? Chinese, right? The Arabs community, people from Mediterranean, people from South America, they all contribute different words to the English language, and they ended up meaning similar things. But when you study the etymology, meaning where the word came from, you get a sense that it's actually not the same. It's not the same thing. So likewise, the thing is, you know, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to teach you. Am I trying to educate you, or I'm trying to develop? Okay, so we can talk about it later. But before we do that, I want you to just, well, I'll come back to this YouTube, by the way, when we talk about the math. But this page is a little bit more like a eclectic. So I'll just give you some quotes. Project-based learning is not about learning how to do projects. Okay, that's not it. But you will get to do projects, but that's not what it means by project-based learning. Okay, you're not trying to learn how to do a project. Project-based learning, the objective is the learning, but it's framed in the project, because by framing it in the project sense, it has a good balance between the theoretical knowledge, which is true regardless of whether or not you're taking the class. If the truth is out there, the knowledge is there, and your personal experience. Okay? And this link, sometimes this coupling between the knowledge and your personal understanding, we talk about that from the direct experimentation thing. Sometimes it's best, sometimes happens organically in a project setting. Yeah, because you need to middle of the project, you still don't know what the problem is. You do project with me, you study, let's say, data analytics class with me. There's some project, and you found out that the technique that you learned in class, you apply to this data set, gets you completely nothing, complete rubbish, like noise. Yeah, it's that kind of interaction that's going to give you an understanding of data science, not about how to do a project, although that's you get that as well. This is something that you guys don't know. This is very important. Okay, if you want to remember one thing today, go home and with this sentence. There's nothing more practical than a good theory. Okay? In my long career, I've run into a lot of, well, I've run into a lot of smart people, but I've run into a lot more stupid people. Okay? And most of the time, they like to frame themselves as practical, right? By which they mean, please give me something that doesn't hurt my brain, or something that doesn't hurt math. Okay? That's not what practical Okay, first of all, that's not what practical means. Second of all, mathematical formulation is the most practical because mathematics is the language of theory, and in fact, theory is what is most practical. Why? Why is theory the most practical thing? Okay? And you get this in YouTube folklorology or something that, oh, this guy is theoretical, this guy is practical, so I want to be practical, I don't want to be theoretical. That's only what morons say. Okay? Why is this quote? By the way, this is from Kurt Lewin. It's a well-known educational theorist in the 50s. Project-based, there's nothing more practical than a good theory. Because theory is an abstraction of problem and solution. You can either learn one solution for one problem, or you can learn the mechanism by which you get to the solution from the problem. And that's what a theory is. Okay? A theory, by the way, is in English, there's very bad use of the word. I have a theory, like this actor and this actress break up. I have a theory that the guy's mom doesn't like her or something like that. But that's not theory. That's just a hypothesis. Yeah, it's a hypothesis. It's not a theory. A theorem is well proven, and it has the most important thing about a theory is generality. Ability to say that in this set of problems, you can generalize the finding. You can say that for this class of problem, to make C, you take A and you add B. For this class of problem, to make C, you take A, you divide by B. Okay? And you don't learn it once. You don't learn it for just particular A, B, and C. You learn it for any A, any B, any C. And that's why mathematical thinking is so important. Okay? Unfortunately, mathematics is also a craft. You know what a craft is? It's one of those things where you have to spend hours on it to be proficient, like wood making or something, right? In theory, I know how to carve an elephant, right? But if you give me a block of wood, I can't make an elephant out of it, right? Okay, so it's not about understanding what to do. It's about the hours on it. It's a craft. Well, mathematics also requires a craft. And that's what's stopping a lot of you from developing mathematics. That's the whole purpose of this course, which is to make mathematics part of your language, but skipping some of the crafts that you're not good at. Okay, so it's also like shortcut to mathematics thinking. And that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, that's what interactive mathematics is supposed to do. What else? Anybody who thinks learning is not based on memorization is clearly an idiot or doesn't understand human biology, or neuroscience, or evolution. We hear this all the time, right? Thailand's education is terrible because you're just teaching students to memorize. Okay? First of all, this is only valid for a particular form of broad memory exercise, a very tiny discipline of memorization. Like I'm trying to remember how many bricks there are in this. Okay? It doesn't apply anywhere. It doesn't work. It's just very specific. It's something that I need to have in my head. That's it. That's broad memory. Oh, your home address, right? Now, that's not what education is. Education is about memorization. Because if you take your brains apart, it's not like a computer. You don't have a CPU and a memory unit. Your processing is your memory, right? So you can't say that, education is about getting smart CPU or memory is something you can just add, you can just Google things up and you can just add rap. No. Your brain doesn't work that way. Okay? Your brain doesn't work. Neuroscience reviews that everything you learn is memory. Okay? It's about the quality of memory and generalization that you have to work with. And also, I'll tell you another story. And this is particularly relevant. I know most of you are from Thailand, I would imagine. Yeah. You know why they say that Thailand education is no good? Because you teach students to memorize. You know why? I don't know why. Because a lot of people, educator, policymaker, they take what's called field trips. They go to the United States for about 2 weeks or something. They look at the class, right? An American class, they don't emphasize the importance of memory. Okay? And they get that. So they, oh wow, Americans are so smart, and in American high school, they don't teach them to, they don't put any importance on memorization, right? So that must be it. That must be the key secret, right? Thai education sucks because we teach you guys to memorize. You don't realize, again, because these people only watch the American kids for 2 weeks. And I grew up with that. Okay? So the reason American high school never teach students or never require students to memorize because Americans are nuts at memorizing stuff. For a very young country, they have this national psyche to memorize shit. It's in their psyche, right? When you're young, when I was young, I was playing games with my kids. You know what kids play in America? They play memory games. They play trump card. You don't know what trump card is? Like I have some kind of, I don't know, 10, okay, or baseball player. Americans keep beat themselves over who can memorize the batting average of somebody who played baseball in the Midwest 50 years before they were born. And that's how they show how, who they are, apparently. Okay? They are big on memory. Okay? And in fact, maybe it's good, but a lot of it's not good. A lot of it just make a social discord because you don't forgive anything. Yeah, they don't forgive anything. They just remember. So anyway, to make story short, if you walk in a Thai classroom, an American classroom, and you ask a teacher, maybe traditional teacher, yeah, Thailand, they put a lot of emphasis on making sure students memorize. It's because we have a tropical temperament. Tropical temperament means we don't remember stuff. That's part of our geological evolutionary upbringing. We grew up in the land of plenty. We don't have to memorize. We don't have to keep time because what? It's always food to eat, right? Americans in the frontier, if they don't memorize exactly what they did last winter, they're not going to make it through this winter. Okay? So the psyche of Americans is all about memory. So it's not that memory is not important. It's so important, it's already ingrained as part of their culture. Whereas in Thailand, because we don't have that, but in order to have this retentive ability to analyze, you have to build up your memory muscle. That's why, teacher in the older years, they try to make you memorize stuff. Okay? So by de-emphasizing memory in Thai education, you're actually making Thai people worse. Okay? Now, this is an example of not understanding causality. Happens all the time. Okay? So, yeah, memorize stuff. Memorize stuff. It's but again, it's the quality of memory, right? So everything in your mind, and you can say, I can tell you, everything in your mind is memory. Even your physical ability is memory. Yeah? You can play tennis better than the next guy because you have developed muscle memory. Okay? I'm smarter than most other people because I have a lot of analytical memory of things that, things come this way, okay, I see how it works, it's blah, blah, blah. Okay? An analogy would be something like playing chess. Most of the grandmasters, it's not that they have good intuition. They just memorize all the board games in the last 300 years. So when you make this opening move, they already know what's happening. Okay? It's, we think that in chess, right? You have to make it, how many moves ahead. No, actually, they don't just think of it on the spot, how many moves ahead. They've seen this move play in some competition in Russia 50 years ago. They already know what's happening. That's what. So it's again. So this is something I want to give you. Two more things. I'm going to turn to math. One is this is a good one. What's the difference between monkey in the zoo and you guys? You guys, you are human, right? You are in Chulalongkorn University. You're in an institution. What exactly is the difference between you and monkeys in the zoo? Anybody? Don't tell me you're smarter. I know that. Hopefully that's true. But you're also smarter than other people who did get to this college, right? That's not it. That's not it. They also go to school. Some people go to school as well. It's the moment you get to exercise your free will. With monkeys, okay? No monkeys ever walk to a zoo and say, okay, cage me up. So it's never voluntary. They don't have free will. Okay? All animals in the zoo, they don't have free will to enter. But once they're in the enclosure, they can pick their nose, they can poo-poo, they can pee-pee, they can do anything they like, right? But you guys are different. Nobody made you come here. You're not rounded out. You're not in a cage. But once you commit yourself to the institution, the institution has tradition, has rule, has bylaw, has regulation, has mannerism, again, tradition, culture. These are the things that you sign up for. You can't come in and say, I want to be Chulalongkorn University, but I'm going to be completely different because I like to be myself and all that crap. That's all nonsense, right? That's not what human beings do in the institution. You sign up of your own free will, hopefully, okay? Hopefully you sign up with free will. But once you're here, you play by the rules, okay? The rules say, you dress properly, you respect the institution, the uniform. That's the deal you bought into. You don't get to say, I'm going to take everything about Chulalongkorn University, but I'm going to wear red skirt. That's the word, okay? So that's the difference between you and monkeys, okay? Monkeys have all the freedom in the world once they get to the institution, but not before. You get all the freedom in the world before, but not after. Yeah, so that's very important. Beware of disciple overreaching the fundamental thesis. This is a lesson that you will see a lot in technology. A lot of technology, philosophical thinking, economic foundation, all these are really good. But when the disciple, the second generation, uses it, tend to make something nonsense out of it. A perfect example of this is Bitcoin. Okay, but I won't talk about it today. But basically, I learned so much. Bitcoin. The mathematics is gorgeous. The construction, the framework, the protocol, it's so lovely. Okay, so that's the first guy. Okay, what's his name? Satoshi, not whatever, who or he or group of people, whatever. But it's what has happened to Bitcoin industry, the disciple, that's made it such a mess. So it becomes something very similar. Okay, and I'm not saying that if you go into Bitcoin, you're going to lose all your money, but I'll tell you why it is completely silly. It's become something completely silly, something that was so mathematically and theoretically and economically brilliant construction into something as silly as betting on English Premier football. The worst. Okay, so beware of that. So that's the lessons I want to point with. Okay, so I guess I just want to spend the first kind of alignment period so you guys know what you're into, and everything else. There's plenty of other things that if you have time or your academic advisor should be able to tell you. One of which is that you can actually survive 4 years at Class I and not learning anything. You could, and you would probably graduate. I bet you can graduate. I'm pretty sure. Maybe one of you can make a lifetime bet with me. Maybe it's you just decide you're not going to learn anything for 4 years, and you will graduate. You can do that. I think you can, but it's your loss. It's your loss. You can learn a lot more than other people your age. So you have a friend in whatever engineering, okay, and they're learning a lot about mechanics and partial differential equation. Maybe you know less about partial differential equation, but you can actually end up learning a lot more. So yeah, don't go for the minimum. I don't think you'll be punished for it. You will actually graduate, but it's your loss. It's your loss. Okay. Okay. So let's make it a flip to the next thing, right? This is actually from last year, so forget about the timeline. This is not your timeline. Your timeline is different. Okay. And also you don't. This is all via Zoom, but this is really the sort of the essence of what you're going to be learning in the 9th class. Okay, there'll be a lot of experimentation with your own Mathematica thing. The first week really is about something we call in Thai there's a word for it. It means something so easy people just overlook. But funny enough, I've seen so many of data scientists working for me failing precisely because of that. Okay, and they come to me, they learn convolutional neural network and all that crap, and they tell me that they're very good, but they make the most fundamental mistake of interpreting with their data sets. Okay, so these are some of the elemental things that I want you to really dig into. Okay, and never lose sight of it. So those would be sort of like a little bit abstract, a little bit. It's like do you know how to add 2 and 2? Yes, you can. But that lecture would be about taking apart what it means to add 2 and 2. What is 2 in front was 2 in the back was plus, and this something forces you to think critically about what you're working with. Okay. Second bit is sort of like trying to get into the bread and butter of mathematics that you're going to be using. Right? In life, there's so many kind of mathematics, but the basic concept of mathematics is based around what you do with functions and exactly what it means and what it works with, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of important. The third, I mean, when I say third, I mean the fourth, because it's introduction. So this would be like 14th of July, 2021, right? Summation. So this would be like working over a bunch of numbers that are in some sense uniform. They belong to the same class. So if I want to know a person individually, I know a person. I get to know you personally. But I want to get to know you as a student, as a representative of your class. And I want to sample 10 of you out of 100. This kind of like mass production of mathematics is what we do with the Wednesday, 14th of July, 2021. So working with vectors and matrix was 2022 now. So vectors and matrix, this is how you handle working with quantities that come in a whole bunch. Okay. And then go on a little more into matrix there. So this is sort of like a linear algebra type thing, right? And then the last 2-3 class would be the sort of like calculus part. So I can tell you this, right? If as a foundation in technology, as a foundation, there's plenty of room there, that. Okay. There are plenty of area that would be considered mathematical foundation. But all I can tell you is at the end of the day, if you know 3 or 4 things: linear algebra, calculus, probability, statistics. If you solve it, if you go in those 4 areas, you can pick up anything. Well, with some effort, yeah. Okay, so linear algebra, calculus, probability theory or probability model and statistics. Sometimes you can say probability and statistics in one sense. And in fact, this is I think I asked Chris to Chris is going to teach you like the basic mathematics. So these are things that I want to make sure he covers. So these are things that those are the topics, right? Finally, and this is the thing I was telling you about. Why mathematics? And well, maybe I just play this.
At school, there's a common response like, I will never need to use this for the rest of my life as a true faculty. Whatever it is, the goal would never break. This is the fact that the act of learning how to do it establishes new kinds of problem solving. So it's not about what you learn, it's about what that is tools you have. In order to solve the problem that you may never see again for the rest of your life, you'll see other problems. People think that when they take math in school, there's a common response like, I will never need to use this for the rest of my life. Whatever it is, the goal would never break. This is that the act of learning how to do it establishes new problem solving. So it's not about what you learn, it's about what methods, tools, you have. So in order to solve the problem that you may never see again for the rest of your life, you'll see other problems. People think that when they take math in school, it's a common response.
I think you get the point. Okay. Right. So that was the thing here. The idea is quite simple, right? You have professional mathematicians. They're the one who study the ultimate abstraction. And I told you that abstraction is the key to being able to solve problems that you haven't seen, but has the same structure as the problem that somebody has seen. Okay? So when a mathematician say, I have this length, I have that length, and it's perpendicular, I know what the length is, right? You can use that anywhere on Earth. Okay? You can do that, use that anywhere on Earth. And that's exactly what mathematics gives you. Now, your learning mathematics has 2 parts. One part is to actually literally learn that mathematical truth and you can use it. But even if you never have to use that particular class of problem, even though it's general, right? It's general problem. But let's say for some reason you never have to figure that out. The understanding of why is it you get this, and there's actually a very elegant proof of this called Pythagorean theorem and so forth. It gives you the wiring in the brain. Okay? And that wiring, once you commit to memory, it becomes a muscle memory, neural memory. And you can this kind of logical thinking, if you go through the group, you will be able to be doing a lot of important things in life that is not a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's not the point. Okay? So that's that. Right now, raise your hand if you have had problem with downloading Mathematica. No, good. Okay, let's have some fun. Let's yeah. by the way, you're gonna count a lot of this. What will happen is in every class, right? You have the TA who's gonna walk up and down the aisles if you have problem. But today just take it easy. Anyway, I just want to show you something. Okay. You guys know Wikipedia, right? You know the Google stuff. You also know how to do Excel and stuff, right? Now, Mathematica is a lot of things. By the way, Mathematica is extremely powerful. There are certain things that all the Python programming in the world cannot do, okay? But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just a different way of working. So imagine this is not Mathematica, the program. This is called Wolfram Alpha. It's built on Mathematica platform, but you can think of it as kind of Wikipedia plus analytics. Okay, so let me try something else. And this is an example. This is a reminder. I want to remind myself to cover. But let's say you start Mathematica, it comes out empty, right? Now, in the old days, you can only enter mathematical command. But now there are actually 3 or 4 different things. So this is a mathematical command. This is something that we are going to be playing with a lot, right? But there are these 2 things. These are sort of like kind of freebies. They kind of built on top of Mathematica that sort of like allows you to look up stuff. So you don't have to say, look up some information in Wikipedia, find the source, download the data, upload it in the Python, run algorithm. It's sort of like all in one. So I'll just give you an example. I'm not very, I don't use this a lot because my data tend to be, say, from a company, so I not public. But let's say, okay, now this, by the way, is a short, by default, is a Mathematica command. You can see that, right? This one is equal, this one is equal. So remember that. So I'm going to say equal. Let's say you want to know about something, right? So I want to know about, I think the example I was using, okay, let's say global warming, equal global warming. Okay, this is like Google search, except first time takes a while because I have to log into the thing. Also, when you start and you go to this kind of resource, it's going to ask you to sort of have a email account. Okay, so the first time you have to do that, and you get some free cloud or something. So this sort of like it's kind of like a baby kind of thing. If I want to Google about global warming, it's going to give you quantitatively computable attributes of the thing you're looking for. Now, if you put something like a person, then obviously it's going to give like a biography. It's going to be text. But in this case, global warming, right? So, and let me go a little bit slow. You can see that here it's assuming global warming referred to global climate study. So that's more precise term. If you're talking about something else, then so this is kind of like, is this what you're looking for? If it is, read on. Global climate study. So that's their knowledge database of global climate studies. And what else is there? Maybe, okay. And automatically, what's the most important thing? Well, obviously, global temperature record, right? Okay. Now, I'm not going to show you now because once you have this, the data is right on the platform now. Okay, you can actually do some kind of model on it now. But just look at it as an interactive information. Okay, so gives you a little bit of okay, temperature anomaly. So these are kind of like wiki, but completely interactive, right? And so I want to look at the past 100 years. I want to look at the 100 years or whatever. I don't know. Okay, so it might take a little bit while with the internet connection, but all kind of stuff. Now, this reference what? It's not just giving you number of nothing. It's giving you where it came from. These are all the climate models and so forth. So something like this, So this is kind of like accessing the knowledge base. Now, if you want something that, let's say, you don't know how to express mathematically. This is what I mean by it's a 3D. It's not the earliest version of Mathematica. Say I want to do something, right? I want to plot a sine wave or something mathematical. I know how to do that, but let's say I don't, and it's something else I don't know how to do. So I'm going to do equal. Okay, so I can do this plot. Please plot. I don't have to say please. Plot a sine wave. Now, this is it's not accessing knowledge base. It's trying to make interpretive, as if it's a chatbot, basically. Okay? But this came long before. It says, is this what you want? Now, this is the mathematical formula that if you knew how to program, you would do that. But to get something going, you don't know, is it called plot? Is it called display? Is it called show? Is it called plot 3D or something? So plot, evaluate, sine. Okay, so let's say I think it's correct. Okay, so let's say I think it's correct. Let's say do that. Oops. Now it's doing that. Okay. So it's make out of something I want to do. I just say it, and it's going to try to see if this corresponds to what you want to do. But let's say it is, right? Now, this is not what I mean by interactive. What I mean by interactive is what you can do with this. So for example, let's say if I want to plot this and I want a higher frequency, right? Or I want to plot from, let's plot from higher frequency, 5, right? I can do this, right? But this is not interactive, it's just command driven. So by interactive, what I can do is I can make this a parameter, say k, right? And something like k going from, I don't know, 1 to 10, okay? And I want to manipulate this. Okay? Now it becomes interactive in the real sense because you can do this. Now, obviously, sine wave doesn't do anything for you, but you can imagine that this is a 3D picture of your product that you want to demonstrate. Instead of using, PowerPoint, you can have all this, right? And you can actually publicly deploy this. So this is in your application, right? So let's say for some reason I'm selling a sine wave generator. So I say I want to cloud deploy this. Yeah, and this is just mean the previous thing and permission. Something like public, I think. I'm not sure if this is the command, but yeah, there it is. So now it becomes a device independent thing. It's just on cloud. So I can send this to any prospective client, okay, who doesn't have Mathematica and just go play with it. Okay? And I'm actually doing this right now in my own project in asset management. I have a project that I want to think about. So it's that sort of thing. Okay. So now this is just to give you an idea of things you can do. So start from something that has information you want to look up, but it's not a separate pipeline. It's not do this because once you have something, it's called a computable object. So this is a computable object. This is a computable object. This is a computable object. Everything is a computable object. I can make trade. I can make this. I can make that. Let's see some example that I thought you might. Okay. So you can do a person, say Thailand. Okay. So it's now this is not looking for database. It's trying to interpret what do you mean by Thailand. Okay, it's Thailand, right? So maybe some information about Thailand. I don't know, right? So once it knows it's Thailand, everything that you work on it now, say map, give me a map of Thailand and so forth. I think I give you example that I looked up earlier. Okay, this would be good. Entity value. So Thailand is an entity. Now this thing is the same thing as that. This thing is the same thing as this. Okay. So entity, let me show you. Country, Thailand. Okay. Now I have a Thailand, I have Brazil, and I have Ukraine. And I say entity values, and I ask for flag. Yeah. Okay. So it becomes a list of. Okay. So now you can do this with any kind of the flag's not that interesting. It's just a static, right? But if instead I say map, and then apply, once it becomes a map, I can say compute area. This is, I can't do it off the top of my head, but certainly I can look up, say, county in Bangkok. Once it becomes a map, I can say discretize it into a size, calculate area. Okay? Or you can take a satellite picture of your own land and calculate area. Oh, sorry. In Zoom, I didn't share this to the guy next door. I didn't see it. My bad. Oh, sorry, guys, on the other room. You didn't see this, right? But the guys in this room did. So anyway, so all this is very easy. Okay, so all this is global warming. Let's talk about this. Okay, Thailand, whatever. Okay, and well, you can work with Wikipedia as well. Let me give you an example that I was using earlier. What's that? This is a good one. Wikipedia. Okay. For example, let's say I happen to want to look up, I don't know why I thought Buzz Aldrin, but I just did. So this is Wikidata. It's actually accessing the most recent or archive of Wikipedia on this Buzz Aldrin, and this is just to say the first two sentences. Okay. Again, it's going to the internet, coming out. So it's actually scraping. It's scraping right now. It's scraping from Wikipedia. Buzz Aldrin is born into this, blah blah blah. Okay. Now, American. Okay, it's American Orthodox fighter pilot. Let's see what else. I think there was something else. I had. This is good. This is good. Now, let's say I want to know if you have a translated version in Thai of Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet. So this is Wikipedia data. Okay, this here is Wikipedia data on the page Hamlet, right? And there's something about language list. So presumably it means the language that Shakespeare's Hamlet is translated to. Now, if I did this, if I just did this, it's just going to give you a list. Okay, so it's not a big list, but let's say it's a huge list, right? And I want to know if Thailand's in there, or Thailand's here, you can see. But let's say it's thousands of words long. I say, well, is Thailand in there? I just say, well, just put in, ask a question. Is it a member? Q, I think. This is, I just happen to know this function off the top of my head, but certainly you can find it later using that. Oops. Okay. Already I'm doing the fundamental of data science. I don't need to know a single line of programming. Now, don't get into a false sense of security. Okay. If you want to do data science, you can do something like this. But professionally, you are going to have to learn other language, like Python, simply because Python has more user base and it integrates with backend and maybe it's written in C or something like that. So you're not going to be able to do something this easy. You're going to have to write like 50 lines of code just to get the program going. Okay. Now, Why is Mathematica suitable for you guys here? Because not all of you will be going to apply digital intelligence. And for those of you who just want to know about global warming, right? And your sustainability, this is a perfect tool. It practically has it's very high level. Okay, you can go deep, and when I use it professionally, I go deep. I don't use this equal thing. I actually go into a code. But to get you going on your study, right? It's like Google, but you don't just Google, get a picture, get a text. You can literally Google with analytics all in one shot. That's what this is. And this is therefore good things for those of you guys who are going to smart cities, those of you guys who are going into sustainability, those of you guys who are going into the healthcare, because you might not be that proficient at professional programs. Okay. Now, when you go to apply digital intelligence, chances are you have to learn other language, Python, and maybe Java, JavaScript or something. Okay. But I still use it, not because it's easy, but because certain things is so powerful. I'll show you something that's very powerful and easy at the same time. Was say something like this. Okay? Now this is kind of like a built-in. You guys may not you hear this thing about machine learning a lot, right? Machine learning is a computer algorithm that learns from example, right? Well, certain problems are so ubiquitous that the machine have already learned it, and they just sort of like freeze it. You see what I mean? It's like instead of getting a dog and you have to teach a dog new tricks, how to fetch and all that, you bought a dog and it already knows how to fetch a bone. Okay, so some of the machine learning platform have built-in pre-learned. Okay, so it's already learned. So, so this is something like that. This is very powerful. So, for example, human beings can tell, right? You can tell that this is a picture of cats and cars, right? Do you know why? Do you know that these are cats, these are cars, these are shares? How can you tell them apart? Well, first of all, how many groups of things, how many types of things are there? You would say 3, right? Mentally, your human intelligence is making a hyperspace mapping. And that mapping separates the first 6 items in one group, the other 5 items in another group, and the other 4 items in another group. But when I say separate, what do I mean? Well, I can say boys to one side, girls to the other, right? And you just have to make a move. Well, that's the mental image that we have. That's what a human intelligence is. Well, AI learns how to do this, but it can learn from example that it tells this is a cat, this is a car, this is a chair. But let's say once it's learned, or sometimes even if it hasn't learned, it can detect certain cues and say feature space bar. Okay, and this is built-in function. So all I do is this. Okay. And so for example, so it's kind of like scattering things about, so shares are with chairs and cars and cats, okay? But you can do this better if you do your own training. But this is kind of like built-in. This is a freebie. This is almost like a calculated kind of thing. So if you look at data, let's say for some reason, this is your problem of, I don't know, sustainability challenge, okay? Different types of animals, whatever, right? Without paying some data scientists to analyze your data, you can do a little calculator. Okay, how many different types are there? Now this is, you can verify this by your own eye, because you can see it, right? But a lot of times, instead of a picture of a cat, you have numerical data of 50 dimensions. You can do exactly the same thing. How can you separate things that are in 50 dimensions into 2 dimensions. This is how they build it. Okay, so marketing research, we use a lot of this kind of grouping. You know about marketing, right? You want to make everybody feel special enough, so it's customized enough. But if you customize perfectly down to one person, then your market has only one client, right? So you want your market target to be big enough so you can make money, but small enough because the clientele has to feel that this is specially tailor-made for them. Okay, so how do you balance between one person versus everyone? Well, you do market segmentation. How do you do market segmentation? Classically, in marketing, you say, oh, well, we'll separate them by age, by education, by this and that. But nowadays, you realize, wait a minute, it's more complicated than that. This is where AI comes in. So all of this built in are very easy to use. And I don't know, and the other, okay, this is, I'll use this later, I guess, okay, so it's plenty of this. What you should do is go to your Mathematica, just type in something and go to reference. The easiest thing is to play with. For example, this is, again, there are 2 things. There's the core Mathematica, which is the language and all the function, and then there's Wolfram Alpha, which is kind of like plus knowledge base. So do this tonight if you like. Just go play with this. Okay, so this would be an example of various things that you can do. Oh, you do that, okay, so again, mathematics, earth science. Yeah, you can do earth science, right? You can go to, I don't know, when you're into Jurassic period, let's say. So this is a similar thing that I was showing you earlier, where you type in the topic and it gives you sort of like some basic information and I don't know. This is sowing era. And so it's going to give you some basic, maybe visualization, show time scale. Okay. So this is where, also in other words, this not only is it combination of Wikipedia like knowledge, but the quantities associated with that. Okay. After all, this is a computation platform, right? So now you can say how long is, I don't know, Cenozoic era compared to Mesozoic era and so forth. So all this becomes a computer and the map data and all kind of stuff. And this again to get you going, but you can do certain analysis. You can plot trend. You can take this and blah blah blah. So this is the sort of thing that now I haven't gone into the mathematics use of this, right? But I did say that you're going to be working with linear algebra and calculus. But this one, I'm just showing visualization. You will also visualize the sine wave as a visualization of mathematics. And, so this interactive visualized mathematics is a sort of a way that I'm trying to get you to embrace mathematical thinking. Mathematical thinking, mathematical visualization, critical thinking, all this. This is something that, it's going to be part of your intellectual development. Okay? Now, you will not learn any advanced functions, certainly in this class, right? But this is the core that you can develop on your own. But I want to make sure that on year 1, you don't separate into this, I'm a technical guy, I do programming, and I'm not technical, so during the project time, just give me a speaking role or something. And I've seen that a lot. Okay, immediately, you start a group project. Say, oh, who can program? Okay, I can program. I will program. Who looks nice in front of the camera? Okay, you do the presentation. You know what I mean? That's kind of like it doesn't kind of thing anymore. Doesn't kind of thing. Basic things like presentation, communication. This should be something that all of you. Likewise, technical things like programming, analytics, this kind of level, this kind of high level descriptive. Okay. Now, once let's say you did this thing, right? Plot a sine wave, and you want to do something fancy, 3 dimension, 4 dimension, with Bessel function. Maybe you consult a mathematician or consult your friend who's an engineer, but at least you're on the same page. Okay? And you're not communicating idea by using your hands. Just draw something this and just send the picture or something. Okay? Also, we're going to have a fab lab, right? At some point, you're going to be able to use 3D printing. You can do this here. Now, this is where Mathematica is very powerful, but I want to tell you that this is where it's different. If you have a CAD software, literally just CAD software, but not the CAM software, or not a specialized software, you can draw. You can even export that drawing to the 3D printer. Okay? But in Mathematica, once you have this object inside the platform, so it knows that you're trying to 3D print something like this. You can treat this as a mathematical object, and you can ask it to do things like volumetric integration to find out the center of gravity. There are examples of that. You have a model of space shuttle, and then you say compute the center of mass or center of pressure or something like that. So it's not just a picture, it's not just a visualization, but computable object. So, okay, so I think that's kind of what I wanted to cover, not so much. And let's okay, let's open the floor up a little bit. And how do you guys see? I'm not going to take all the suggestions, but let's say, what would you like to see? I reserve the right to say, oh, this is something you're going to see in the second year, or I'm not going to cover this, or blah, blah, blah. This is, what would you like to see happen during the summer? Again, goes back to the same thing, you make the best out of it. So just as you can get by the 4 years without learning anything, you can also get by 4 years without proactively deciding on your syllabus. But let's say I just say, Ken, the floor is open. Tell me what you want to learn. Okay? And you have to do that. Because Basai cannot teach you biochemistry. Basai cannot teach you the full chunk of nanotechnology. And if you decide that nanotechnology is one of those long tools in the code that you want to get, you have to be proactive. You have to teach, you have to go to your academic advisor and say, can I cross-register with, say, nanotechnology department? Okay? Think of a buffet, right? Buffet is not to eat as much as you can, but to eat as much of what you want to eat. Okay? So, no idea? How about this? How about I let you guys think about it for a little bit, but because I have to make a little washroom break. Anybody else need to go to boys' room? No? Okay. So why don't I let your TA come up and okay, come. Someone so we can take it easy without to. Sometimes I just let you guys measure or something. Unfortunately, we can't finish late because somebody uses. There is going to be somebody using the group after. Okay. Now, one more thing about this, which is not in the name of the institution, but it's also very much a part of Professor Warasak's thinking, is the idea that somehow you should be integrated with the concept of design thinking. Okay. Now, anybody knows what design thinking is? it's like those things, project-based learning is not about doing project. Design thinking is not about thinking about design. Okay, it's about well, you'll be surprised. Design thinking is a lot more about getting to know who you're trying to provide service for, or what solution, to whom are you providing the solution. It's a little bit more about empathy than you think. Okay, but obviously it manifests in terms of design, because the concept of design is that you have something in mind, and you design your way around, you design your concept around. Okay, but instead of designing a house around a property, it would be something like designing a tool around a particular segment of the population, such as aging society. Okay, so design thinking is very much something that we haven't really fleshed out too much in our curriculum. Okay, but the flip side of that kind of empathetic thinking, designing your solution around particular need, is the need to literally visualize the design. And that's where tools like manipulate in Mathematica is very useful. So I encourage you to do this as well. Okay, so there are 3 pages I want you to go to tonight. Okay, first page is what I showed you before, was Wolfram. The second page is a reference page, but you see that later. But anyway, tonight I want you to go to demonstrations.wolfram. Okay, what it does is a whole bunch of things that other people have done. Okay. Sorry, I have to share. Okay. Right. Okay, let's go back to this. Right. This page is a repository of demonstration programs done by people from different fields. And in the beginning, it was a little bit more like a interactive mathematics, literally what we're going to do in this class. But eventually, people like biologists, mechanical engineers, designers, social scientists, they kind of took over, and they developed their apps, so to speak. Okay, so you can think of this is a very good app prototyper. Okay, now at some point, some of you will try to create a project around something that you can see as an Android app or something like that, right? And you have to learn some kind of web application programming. But, well, my project, I need to do something that will get investors to subscribe to my concept of asset management. I don't need to actually create the app in the phone to make it happen. I can actually show it up here. Once they bought the concept, they can either have me assemble the team to build the app, with Android or whatever, iOS, or they can just pay me for the intellectual property or development program, and they can hire other people to implement the iOS, right? So yeah, the idea is you have to be able to get your idea across. And human beings are still very visual. And that's why when you go to this page, demonstration Wolfram, it's not just about interactive mathematics anymore. It's interactive biology, interactive logistics, interactive this and that. But a lot of it is done as an education tool. Okay? So, certain things, I think more interesting would be, let's say, biology or something, I don't know. So physical science or engineering, technology. I think life science is quite interesting because you can visualize molecular structure. Biology, maybe let's go to high school biology. I don't know how many of you would have done better in biology or hated biology less in high school if you had some tools like this to play with. But this is kind of like maybe visualization of a double helix, so forth, right? Now, of course, this thing, by the way, it is available for you to download. So you can download the executable itself, or you can download the whole program and run it in your Mathematica. Okay, but once you return your license, you can just keep the maybe executable and play it in what's called play. Okay, so just a visualizer of the form. So all kinds of things, this molecular structure, and so just go crazy on it. In fact, your first assignment at your TA is going to make this sort of like, you have a line group, right? Okay, it's going to be one of those first come, first serve. What she's going to do is she's going to make a list of, this is your name, I guess, right? And let's say you go through this and you like something. Say you like this spin echo pulse sequence in magnetic resonance imaging. This happens to be your thing. Okay. Now, what you do is you go to the line group and you sort of like put a dip on it, meaning, I want to play with this thing. So you own this now, and your friends cannot play with this. So there will be like a little spreadsheet in the line group, and then you just play. I want to play with spin echo pulse next to your name. Okay. So once you put that down, nobody can take it because you own that. You just take a clip. So I call it, put it. My dip. Take a dip. Yeah. Right. So each one of you should do that before Wednesday, right? Because we need to meet on Wednesday. So let's make this an assignment done, say tomorrow, 3 o'clock afternoon. Okay? So you have to fill in what you want to play with. Then you go and download. You can download here, right? Okay, the codes and all here. Okay, you can download the code. I can't see it here. Where is it? Yeah, download demonstration CDF. CDF stands for computable document format. This is just, I guess, for the general public who doesn't have the full-fledged Mathematica program. It just has a little app player, right? But you can download this. You can download all this code. Okay. Why would you do that? Two things. You don't want to just play with it. You want to use it as a template for your project. So let's say I kind of have this problem in mind. I am a medical scientist. I'm not working on the brain image. I'm working on liver. Okay, but I want to do something like this for liver. So what you do, you just go to download all this code and download this. And wherever you see the file that has the brain image, you put in liver. Right? And so these are kind of like it's better than a template. A template is something that gives you spot for doing this, and that. And that's what manipulate is. It's a full template. But this already gives you a I guess, design applet. Okay. Now I want to do exactly this. I want to show this, but I don't want to show the brain. I want to show liver because I'm working on liver, right? So download this program, go into the code, edit it out, the part that say, upload the brain picture, and upload your liver instead, liver image. Okay, and that becomes your thing. And then you can show this. You can show this to your patient or whatever medical research team. Okay. So by tomorrow, let's make it 3 o'clock. Okay, just everybody put in next to your name which one you want to study, and just download and play with it. And I would try to have a random picking thing. So I'll pick you. You come up and talk about what you learned from it and how you might think. Now it's a little bit too early. You haven't started year 1 yet, so you haven't got a project necessarily in mind yet. But start thinking. I had thoughts of what I wanted to do way before I started college. Sometimes they're a little bit silly, so in the end I just throw them out. But I always have ideas in my head. So I would imagine some of you already have that as well. Okay, so you might have some idea. Again, your idea is liver, so you do something with this. again, and so many, you go by topics, you can go by that. By show of hand, I just want to see. I don't want you to be committed to this, but you know that there's a sustainable development track. I'm very big into this subject. I really love it, but it's not my area here. As healthcare, right? Healthcare, health delivery, health system. There's smart cities, IoT, and all kind of stuff. And then there's applied digital intelligence, which covers anything from robotics to machine learning, AI. By show of hand, who's really leaning toward sustainability? Just want to see. Okay, let me say that again, because too few of you. Sometimes you can study applied digital intelligence, but major in sustainability. Okay, think of it this way: sustainability, health, smart city. These are problem areas. Applied digital intelligence is a solution area. You can study solution, then look to apply to a problem, which may be one of these three or something else. Or you can also study, say, one of these, like sustainability, with specific intention of applying digital intelligence solution. Okay, so I don't want everybody to just think that they have to go to apply digital intelligence if they're going to use machine learning. Okay, you can actually study machine learning from a problem perspective. Your problem perspective is sustainability challenges. I study that from a problem perspective, but solution-wise, I want to use machine learning, and then you come take machine learning class. Okay, so I don't want, otherwise, if I don't make this statement, I think maybe 80% will go apply digital intelligence. That's not going to work. Okay, so again, it's integrated, but the reason we have this kind of 4 area is just a specialization, just to give you an organization of faculty. Okay, but you can study machine learning, could be as good as a data scientist, but studying sufficiency, sustainability challenge, sufficiency economy. Okay, we have just one guy anymore. So, yeah, it's really a good area. Okay, it's really a good area. Why is it a good area? Because it's a generational problem. It's one of those things where, even though we should have been studying it when I was young, nobody studied. Seriously. Okay, the world is in a big mess, and I'm going to tell this. I'm not just pro sustainability just for the sake of it. It's almost guaranteed that most of the academic, industrial, engineering, artistic study at some point will be organized under the rubric of sustainability. That's your future. Okay? Because we haven't left the environment and the biosphere in a very sustainable way. So sustainable development is it's the whole world, by the way, whether or not we study it as a camp. Okay, I'll go on the next one. Smart cities. No taker? Okay, good. Smart cities. Okay, again, smart city has a lot of element of machine intelligence, if you like, has a lot of element of policy planning, has a lot of element of IoT. If you want to study that, you don't have to do applied digital intelligence. Okay, healthcare. Health, medical. Okay, good. So a bit more. Okay, about just apply digital intelligence with no particular application inside. Just apply digital intelligence in general. Okay, I think according to this, half of you are dropping off. Okay, so no biggie. No, it's always like this. Applied digital intelligence seems to be the more popular. But all I'm saying is that it doesn't mean that if you go to the other track, you don't get to study machine learning or data science. It doesn't mean that. Okay, it just means, are you problem focused or are you solution focused? Not even focused. Are you approaching the study from a problem perspective, or from a solution perspective. Okay, this is very important. It's very important. And from a solution perspective, there's another sentence that I should put down. I forgot now that I mentioned it in the last half a minute. This is another sentence. Okay, first the first sentence you take home, nothing more practical than a good theory. The other sentence I forgot. I'm sorry. You have to memorize this. When all you've got is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And that is the problem. Why is Thailand so silly in a lot of development programs? Because we got so many damn PhDs. PhDs are by nature single trick, right? Because I go deep and deeper and deeper and deeper in my tool. The only reason the world advances is because we have 1,000 PhDs studying very deeply in different areas. But if PhDs are narrow-minded, they will not think that, they will think that all the problem is applicable to their technique. And that's what's wrong with academics. I can say that. I can say that that's what, not just in Thailand, but the problem with a lot of silliness that happens in life is all the PhDs. They spend so much effort getting a PhD, and they're so afraid that the problem they face requires a solution that's not in that thesis. Yeah. I mean, I am not good example of anything, but there's one example I know I'm very good at. I'm never afraid of saying that this problem requires solution that I don't know. Okay? Oftentimes, nobody else does. So I ended up knowing it. Yeah, sure. Because I'm a little bit greedy when it comes to learning. But one thing I'm always proud of is that I always say, I don't know. Okay? That's very important. In other words, this problem is not a nail. I just have a hammer. Okay? I may know somebody else who has the tool, but I don't have it. I can develop the tool in a few days, a few weeks, but right now, all I've got is a hammer. And this problem is not a nail. Okay? So remember those two sentences. I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay, Nakab? Good luck and enjoy.